The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
And that creates, we could see, I guess, maybe as many as 36 maybe this year that might be attempting to qualify for this year's race. Yeah. One of those teams is Aero Mclaren. They are going to put two-time Indy 500 winner Juan Pablo Montoya behind the wheel. He won this race in 2000, again in 2015. He raced the 2021, last year's Indy 500 for Aero Mclaren, and finished ninth. At 46 years old, he is two-thirds of the way to becoming one of the very few drivers, if not the only drivers, to try and claim the Triple Crown. There are two drivers right now that I can tell you that want to get it. One is Juan Pablo Montoya. The other is currently running Formula One. That is Fernando Alonso.
Yep.
The Triple Crown of motorsports is the Indy 500. Formula One's Monaco Grand Prix, and the one that eludes Montoya so far, a class win at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. But he's got one that Fernando Alonso don't got, and that's a Daytona 500.
Yep.
So that's not a bad Triple Crown either.
No.
So Juan Pablo Montoya's in, and then we got to wondering pretty much ever since the end of the 2021 season about the number 20 for Ed Carpenter Racing. Now, Connor Daly last year drove the road and street course races in that racer last year, and then Ed Carpenter himself was driving the car on the oval tracks. Well, it was announced yesterday, officially. Connor Daly's back in 2022 with a new sponsor, and he'll be driving the number 20 in all the races.
I can't remember what that's. Let me see.
Replacing the U.S. Air Force as his sponsor is a company called BitNile Holdings. That's another Bitcoin
right.
area, online currency deal.
I knew that's what it was, but I couldn't remember exactly what the name of it was because there's 50,000 Bitcoin companies everywhere.
Which we're going to get to another one later. As for a full-time situation, then there's Ed Carpenter. Ed Carpenter still likes to run. And again, he split time in the number 20. He ran the oval tracks. So what is he talking about? He's talking about entering a third car, a part-time entry, just to drive himself on those oval track courses. And so Ed Carpenter Racing expanding.
Yeah, and they're always the threat on those ovals, too. Always have been, always will be.
He's an ace.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
No doubt for sure.
And then for those of you that wonder about the racing this coming year, all of the series that we cover, again, if you're new to the show, considering our new home, NASCAR, IndyCar, NHRA, Formula One, Formula E, Superstar Racing Experience. Those are all on a regular basis. And we'll cover some of the big races as they come up. And it brings us to just one of those. We're just a couple of weeks away from the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, which we just mentioned. As usual, some big names tend to leave their regular series to run this event because it is that prestigious. And for 24 hours, you need really more than two drivers to be able to make it work.
Need about 4 or 5.
Generally, it's 4.
Yeah, it's typical 4. You got some that run 3, and they used to have some that unavailable 5.
Yeah, that's true. For the 2022 IndyCar Series drivers, incoming rookie Devlin DeFrancesco, he's going to be running for Dragon Speed Racing. He's going to be joining a quartet of drivers that include fellow IndyCar drivers Colton Herta and Pato O'Ward, and the fourth driver there will be an IMSA regular, Eric Lux. Meyer Shank Racing has announced that Simon Pagenaud is going to compete with them as well as one of the drivers in the number 60 Acura in the Daytona Prototype division. Daytona Prototype being the fastest of the divisions. Pagenaud moves over from Team Penske to Meyer Shank for IndyCar in 2022. And in the IMSA situation, he'll be teaming up with Elio Castroneves and 2 IMSA regulars in their attempt to win that division. You remember Jimmy Johnson? That's right. If you missed him last year in NASCAR, it was because he was running IndyCar. Not well, but he was running IndyCar.
Yeah, not well for sure.
And he's also going to run this year's Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Johnson has rejoined Action Express Racing. He will drive alongside Kamui Kobayashi and Mike Rockenfeller for the 4 major races this coming season. Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona being the first of those. There'll be a 4th driver by the name of Jose Maria Lopez. The main trio will be vying for the championship within the championship in IMSA. It's called the Michelin Endurance Cup, taking the 4 longest races of the year. Johnson will be a part of all those.
A little side note about the 24 Hours of Daytona.
Yeah.
This year is a record number of entries.
I'm not surprised.
It's 61.
There you go.
In 3 divisions.
On that road course.
Yeah.
Oof. Have fun. Then there's a guy who we've been following for a couple of years. His name is Robert Wickens. If that name sounds familiar but you can't quite place it, it's because Robert Wickens was an IndyCar driver who turned into quite the hot shot, but ended up suffering severe spinal damage in a crash in Pocono back in 2018. And he's been trying to kind of relearn how to walk and kind of relearn how to drive cars because it's so different. Wickens recently talked to NBCSports.com. He is back to racing this year. He does add he likely will never walk again, but it's not going to stop him from trying, he adds. So he's using hand controls. Very cool. And has joined Brian Herta Autosports IMSA program. He's going to pair with a driver by the name of Mark Wilkins out of Canada. They're going to pilot a Hyundai Veloster N TCR in the Michelin Pilot Challenge division, which will begin at Daytona in the Rolex 24 Hours weekend. He does add that even though he would like to come back and race an IndyCar, he doesn't think that it's going to be possible because of the fact that he's having to use hand controls. And that's not a very likely situation in IndyCar.
Very likely not, but with the level of aggression and determination that he has had
he has
through this
worked
entire process
so hard.
And the way technology has came nowadays, I'm not going to say anything's not possible.
It is going to have to be something that IndyCar officials are going to have to approve, though, because hand controls being a lot different from that situation, they're going to go through it, and they're going to have to make sure that there's nothing in there that could give him an edge that, they might hide something in there that might give him an edge and stuff like that.
For sure.
So it's going to be highly scrutinized if he's ever able to get into an IndyCar using those hand controls. But congratulations to Robert Wicken back to racing on a regular basis.
No doubt.
Then there's the Race of Champions. Don't confuse this with what we remember as the old International Race of Champions, or IROC, that shut down in 2006. This Race of Champions is an international competition if you're unfamiliar with it. And it sets you nation against nation or region, and then driver against driver. So there's 2 titles to win out of this all-star weekend that's going to come up in February. And it's actually the first weekend in February. This year it's going to run in Sweden. The latest addition to the driver lineup, Elio Castroneves. He's been assigned to Team Latin America alongside rally racer Benito Guerra Jr., who won the 2012 PWRC title and is the reigning Race of Champions driver's title winner, or champion of champions. We mentioned that Jimmy Johnson and Travis Pastrana, in our previous guys here at CRN, are going to represent the United States. Last year, rookie Michael Schumacher at Formula One is going to team up with Sebastian Vettel. They're going to make up Team Germany. More IndyCar and probably more Formula One drivers likely will be named before the event actually gets rolling. But Team Latin America and Team USA are set, so it appears unlikely that any other drivers with any NASCAR ties will be named unless someone happens to drop out. Little surprised that Daniel Suarez isn't there, truth be told.
Yeah, no joke.
Remember a couple of years ago, if you're an IndyCar person, you remember a couple of years ago on just behind the helmet where the drivers were, they had LED panels.
The air cowl, yeah.
Yeah. And it would tell you at a glance what position they were in on the track, and it would give you like a P when they were rolling into the pits, and it would actually count the seconds that they were in their pit stall. Mm-hmm. Well, they've done away with those because they just couldn't make them be able to take the shaking and the abuse, really, that an IndyCar would do going through the course of a race on any given track. So those have gone away since 2020. But in a sense, they're going to make a comeback. This time, they're going to be larger, 20 by 20-inch lighted panels that are going to be made by a company called EM Marshalling System, and the intent is to replace the flag bearers that, as of last year, used to be at every corner of every course. They're replacing them using the electronic panels, and the colors will switch depending on exactly what it is that they're going to do. They can be yellow if there's a local yellow or a full course yellow. They can be blue if they find that they need to have a car that's slower than the others move over to pass.
Yeah.
Formula One does a system like this as well. But the funny thing is Formula One not only has those panels in certain places around the track, they still got flag bearers.
Yeah. But 20 by 20 is not very large.
It's not all that big when you stop and think about
it.
Not at all. System's portable. It will be installed at each and every corner of every facility, they say. So you get to a place like Barber Motorsports Park, you're putting a whole bunch of panels up.
You're going to have at least 25.
Uh-huh.
At least.
These are all going to be connected by a local network that feeds back into race control. They can be changed all at once or individually by the series race director Kyle Novak and the team and his team, which will probably shrink or grow depending on the size of the track that they go to. I'm not sure how this is going to work. If I'm IndyCar, I'm not going to rely solely on this, and I'm going to have some flag bearers.
Oh, for sure.
Hanging out there.
You can't guarantee that they're going to stay consistently working. There can be an electronical error.
Could be any number of
electronical. That's
problems.
a new word.
Yeah, thank you.
Ooh.
There could be any number of errors that come up on this. So have a backup, IndyCar.
Yeah.
Just letting you know.
No doubt.
Firestone, long been the sole tire provider for the NTT Data IndyCar Series. They just inked a deal to continue to be that sole IndyCar tire provider through at least 2025. And to show their further commitment, they and their parent company, Bridgestone, in case you didn't know, Bridgestone owns Firestone, have finalized a brand new 8,500 square foot facility that is going up in Akron, Ohio. They've named it the Bridgestone Advanced Tire Production Center, BATPC. Okay, whatever. It's the BAT PC, which the tire company executives state will be very IndyCar centered. They're going to build, they're going to cure, and they're going to analyze the race tires all at that one location. They've also included a test track on those grounds where the company will take passenger tires to evaluate what they have learned based from racing and see if they can't take it to your passenger car. That's why Goodyear does NASCAR, Firestone does IndyCar, Michelin does Formula E, Pirelli does Formula One, so on and so forth.
I like the aspect of a proven ground.
I do too.
I
think it's great. Now, as for the chassis that those Firestones are going to go on, remember, at least through 2025, well, the chassis will continue to be built by Dallara. The longtime IndyCar chassis maker has signed an extension to their deal with IndyCar, and it runs very concurrent with the deals that are signed by the engine providers, Chevrolet and Honda, helping IndyCar continue to build upon a very solid base. Dallara's relationship with IndyCar dates back to 1997, and since 2008, they've been the series' sole chassis builder. And they are so invested in it that they built their own facility in Speedway, Indiana, not too far away from, let's face it, the hub of IndyCar, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a little while longer. So,
yeah.
The funny thing is we only know that it's a multi-year deal. We don't know when this deal will actually end.
Well, I mean, multi-year deals in people's books nowadays can be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
I'm getting a funny feeling it's probably, give or take, 5 years.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
Because last I seem to remember, Chevrolet and Honda signed a deal of about that long.
Yeah.
So that seems about right. Plus, there's still the conversation that they're dealing with about trying to get at least one more engine manufacturer in there. And I think that that's probably close to happening. But the question is when?
Yeah.
That's what we're waiting on. As for individual races, the likely, probably second crown jewel in the IndyCar series, behind obviously the Indy 500, might be the Long Beach Grand Prix. Drivers love to win this particular race, and the Long Beach, California City Council, during their January 4th meeting, approved a new agreement with the Grand Prix Association of Long Beach that will keep arguably this second crown jewel race of the IndyCar series on the schedule through at least 2028. It does continue one of the longer running races in the IndyCar as well. As of 2021, it's been going on for 46 years. This year, officially known as the 2022 Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, it is going to run, California officials permitting it,
I like that.
April 8th through the 10th. We're still watching to see whether California decides, you know what? We're closed. Don't come here.
Yeah.
And that would make the third year in a row if they did. Let's hope not.
Yeah, they need to worry about picking up packages off of train tracks. Oh, did I say that?
Huh. When we come back, we got to take our first break here. When we come back, Roger Penske, in case you didn't know, owns now the IndyCar series as a whole, and he also owns the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And he has been sinking some money into it. Had the chance to go see it last August for the NASCAR IndyCar weekend. He's doing a very nice job of it, but he ain't done yet. We'll get into the details of how much money's going into the track this year and what's going on. Plus, we got some Formula One and Formula E news, and wow, hour number 2 is just going to be loaded up with stock car stuff. We're just underway right here at CRN. Thank you for joining us.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in, and we do appreciate you checking us out, and we also appreciate the fine folks that help make this show happen, and parts of this show being brought to you by our fine friends over at Ox Foundation Solutions. We got a great person who helps us over there. His name is Michael Hart.
Yep.
All 3 of us have known and have worked with him, and he's come and done stuff for us and kind of advised us on foundation situations, and he can advise you as well. And we advise that you do that, because the last things you want to do is take the massive investment that your home is and have any kind of problem with it whatsoever as far as the foundation is concerned. Because if that started, it's only going to get worse. It will not fix itself. So go get some peace of mind. Even if you think nothing's wrong, set up an appointment with our good friend Michael Hart. Call him, 205-362-6419, or email him and set up the appointment, mike@oxfoundations.com. Have him come out. He'll go over the house. If there's nothing wrong with the house, he'll write it up as nothing's wrong with the foundation. He'll hand that paper to you. You're golden.
You pay nothing.
And you pay nothing. That is a no-cost, no-obligation written foundation assessment. But that being said, if he comes out and he finds out that there is a problem, he'll write that up, tell you what's wrong with the house, and tell you how much it's going to cost to fix it. Then there's this neat little trick. Because you heard about it, and you tell him you heard about it right here on CRN, and you mention the promo code WEST, W-E-S-T, my last name, you get 15% off that total that he just quoted you. So you got nothing to lose. Give Michael a call, 205-362-6419. If you're anywhere in the state of Alabama, north, south, east, west, doesn't matter, all the borders, they cover it. Or email him, mike@oxfoundations.com, have him come out, get that no-cost, no-obligation written foundation assessment, and make sure that your home is in great shape. Talking IndyCar here as we kicked off today, and we mentioned just before the break that Roger Penske bought both the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the IndyCar Series from the Holman George family, which owned it for decades. But unfortunately, they kind of let things slide. And Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which is, let's face it, one of the older race courses in the United States of America, was starting to show that age. Well, Roger Penske has sunk millions in updating the most famous racetrack in the country and arguably the world. A lot of work on the inside of the track, a lot of work on the outside of the track. I mentioned it, went there last August.
Right.
Looking around, just Georgetown Road, the city of Indianapolis worked with him to kind of reroute the road, and it allowed him to create this area where you have a nice gateway entry in, and you've got a nice area where you can kind of check out concessions or some of the things that are up for sale, as opposed to being literally right on top of the track, which is what Georgetown Road used to be.
Right.
So that's nice, and on the inside, he continues to work on things. For this year, Penske has told Racer.com he set aside about $8 million to update the ticket booths. He's looking to expand and improve the camping sites for those who are coming in for RVs. Potentially, he's also talking about buying some of the more of the property in and around the speedway to expand all that area out. They also want to work closer with NASCAR to improve the curbing, which if you watched or happened to be at the race last August, caused major problems. Not so much for the IndyCar cars because they're used to the curbing because they run a whole heck of a lot more race courses.
Right.
Especially for the Cup cars because they got that splitter that's almost right on the ground. And if they tried to run over those curbs and they hit it at the wrong spot, they actually, some of them took the splitter off the front of the car and it jammed up under the curbing.
Or even took the curb off the track.
Yeah. So they want to fix that situation as well. So, yeah, the continuing improvement of Indianapolis Motor Speedway at the hands and at the expense of Roger Penske. But it was needed. It was really,
no
really
doubt,
needed.
no doubt.
Then there's the television side of things, and we've been noting that television ratings for IndyCar, NHRA, and Formula One, all here in the United States, over the past 3-4 years, have all been on the uptick. That continued last year. NBC Sports announced that they have been doing good and doing very, very well. But then they did something on December 31st, right at midnight, that raised a lot of eyebrows.
Just a few.
They cut off the NBC Sports Network. It's gone. It's poof. It's history. So now what do they do for cable sports? Well, it turns out some of those sports go to the USA Network. So what does that mean for IndyCar and their 17-race schedule coming up this year? Well, NBC Sports announced that. The first 6 races all go on NBC. That includes Barber Motorsports Park, and they're going to get a 12:30 p.m. Eastern time start on May the 1st. So if you're planning on going to that race May the 1st, it's an 11:30 p.m. Central time start. Be prepared for that.
Ooh.
The first
mental note taken.
Yeah, really. The first race on the USA Cable Network, again, taking over for the late and lamented NBC Sports Network, Detroit Belle Isle Grand Prix. That's going to be June 5th. So basically, from the start of the season through Indy 500, all those races are on the NBC main network. Mm-hmm. The only other races that will move off NBC to another platform, I use that term carefully, are the Streets of Toronto Grand Prix. That's July 17th. That's only available to those of you who are on the Peacock streaming net.
Here comes the test drive.
Yep, this is the first test for all of the series. They're going to be watching IndyCar and this particular race very, very carefully to see the reaction. August 20th is the other race. That's the race at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. August the 20th again, near St. Louis. That will be run on the USA Network. Otherwise, NBC, the main network, gets 14 of the 17 races this year.
Good for them.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's about time.
Yeah, that's about the best way we can put it. It's about time that we started getting back to that, because that is what we've been begging for. That, truth be told. Mm-hmm. While not getting the same TV coverage, IndyCar has taken control of the operations of their top feeder series. That's the Indy Lights series. So yeah, this is back under Indy control. They announced this week a 14-race slate in 2022, and they'll join IndyCar at the season opener in St. Pete, and they'll take off. They will rejoin IndyCar at our very own Barber Motorsports Park and the road course race at Indy. They will race before most of the IndyCar races through to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And then there's a chance to win some cash. And let's face it, it takes money to go racing, doesn't it?
Just a little bit.
One of the Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan racing sponsors, a company called People Ready, they've announced a cooperative challenge approved by IndyCar that will pay the first driver in 2022 to win a race on each of the different courses, an oval course, a street course, and a road course. If you're the first driver to do that, you get $1 million. $1 million.
I'm going racing.
Yeah, really. The money will be evenly split. Half of it, $500,000, goes to the driver and the team, and the other half goes to the charity of said driver's choice.
That's the right way to do it.
Okay.
I agree.
I'll sit in the pits.
So, the question becomes, how hard is it for one driver to win on each type of track? Well, if you look at 2021, you might think, well, gosh, it's got to be really difficult because no driver did it. Yeah. Got to look back a little bit further.
How far do we have to go, Steve?
If you go back to 2015, at least one driver has done it each year since then, except for last year. Last year was the outlier. And your odds went up this season because we added an oval track. Iowa Speedway returns to the schedule as a doubleheader weekend. Texas is there. Indy 500 is there. Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway is on the schedule. So you got 5 chances at an oval race. The other 12 races show a split between 5 street courses and 7 road course races. So there's your opportunity. You got at least 5 chances at each kind to gain a win. And if you're the first driver to do it, $1 million.
$1 million.
Not bad. Not bad.
Give me the first person to do it. Give me. Why am I sitting here thinking Scott Dixon will do it?
The funny thing was I was actually thinking Pato O'Ward.
If I had to hedge my bets, Scott Dixon.
Scott Dixon is certainly an odds-on favorite. Pato O'Ward.
Pato O'Ward's a threat. I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
And I wouldn't necessarily count out Colton Herta.
No.
But I'm just not sure he's
not seasoned enough.
Yeah.
Pato O'Ward had 2.
Pato O'Ward's got better equipment.
He had 2 out of 3 last.
Yeah, he did. So I'm going to stick with Pato O'Ward. But I'm not going to say that Colton Herta would surprise me terribly.
True.
There you go. Just before Christmas, some good news for a former IndyCar and Formula One driver, Alex Zanardi. In case you hadn't known, he was paralyzed a number of years ago from a wreck that he had, and he was doing some paracycling He was in a race back in 2020 when he went a little bit wide and unfortunately crashed right into the back of a truck that was unfortunately just off to the side of the course, and he was not able to avoid it. He was recently released from a hospital because of that wreck and now moves into a rehab facility to continue his healing process near his home in Italy. We hope nothing but the best for him.
Absolutely.
And if you would like to let both IndyCar and Motorsport.com know your thoughts about the status and the future of the American Open Wheel Series, here's your opportunity. I've already done mine. You got an online survey. If you log on to global-IndyCar-fan-survey-2022.motorsport.com or just go to motorsport.com and follow all the links. You can fill out the questionnaire. It took me about 10 minutes. It's pretty cool. Worked out well. As for international open wheel racing, we turn our attention to Formula One, and that brings us to Mick Schumacher. Of course, Mick is the son of seven-time F1 champion Michael Schumacher. He's got a very bright light on him. He was rookie for Haas F1 in 2021. He's going to be back with the team in 2022, but he's on loan from Ferrari. He's a Ferrari development driver academy or development driver, however you want to put it. But he's still driving for Haas F1 in 2022 in a form that looks much like George Russell had in his last couple of years with Williams and Mercedes. He was driving mostly for Mercedes, but he was the main reserve driver, if you will, for Mercedes. And that proved beneficial to him in late 2020 when Lewis Hamilton had to sit out a race because he had been diagnosed with COVID. George Russell came over and raced that Mercedes very well.
Extremely well.
Schumacher was loaned to Haas F1 for 2021. Again, a member of the Ferrari Driver Academy. He remains exactly that, even though, again, he's full-time for Haas in 2022. But he's, again, the primary reserve driver for Ferrari as well, listed as such for 11 of the 23 scheduled Formula One races, according to Ferrari team boss Mattia Binotto. The reserve driver for the other 12 is now Formula E driver, and last year a driver at Alfa Romeo, kind of a Ferrari satellite team, a team that Ferrari provides engines for, and that's driver Antonio Giovinazzi. If it turns out that Schumacher has to drive for Ferrari for a particular race, that means Haas F1 needs to have a driver. Their primary reserve driver is Pietro Fittipaldi. He is the same driver who's been in that role now. This is at least his third year. He's the same driver who actually has had a chance back when Romain Grosjean was injured over the final couple of races of the 2020 season. Pietro Fittipaldi was the driver then. So he's going to be the guy on standby for all 11 races that we know that Mick Schumacher's on standby for Ferrari. Mm-hmm. Then there's Aston Martin. Things continue to change in the front office here.
Yep.
Longtime CEO and team principal Otmar Zafnauer. He announced January the 5th he's leaving the organization effective immediately. Bye. The team, owned by Canadian businessman Lawrence Stroll, who's the father of team driver Lance, said in the wake of the departure that there would be a team of people that would take over in the interim until a new person was named. We'll get back to that. Romanian-American in heritage, Zafnauer joined what was then Force India back in 2009. He was made their team principal after Stroll bought the organization in 2018. But as of late 2021, you know the rumor mill, had him moving over to the Renault/Alpine team as of late 2021. He himself has dismissed those as nothing but, quote, pure media speculation. Oh, but wait, there's more. At the Brazilian Grand Prix late last year. He's already been replaced. Apparently, Lawrence Stroll didn't care much for the whole team of people, so he wanted a person, and that person's name is Mike Crack. He has joined from BMW's Motorsports division, but he's got some F1 experience. Before that, he worked with Sauber, which is now Alfa Romeo in Formula One, so at least he has some idea of what he is talking about. But it's Sauber. It does reunite him with Sebastian Vettel.
It does.
But it's Sauber, which has never really been a massive threat to win any races. So.
Never has. But if anybody that has watched the Drive to Survive series knows that Lawrence Stroll was not going to drag his feet and wait too long.
No. There are certain people, as you hear them in interviews, you just know for a fact they're not going to settle for mediocrity for long.
Yeah.
Lawrence Stroll ain't going to settle for mediocrity, I'll tell you that.
No, not even close.
As for that former Renault team, again, now known as Alpine. Alpine, if you didn't know, by the way, is a sub-brand of the Renault automobile company. It's their performance division, for lack of a better term. So they decided last year for the 2021 season to rename the F1 team for that performance division, Alpine. But shortly after the 2020 season came to an end, that Alpine team parted ways with their team principal, Cyril Abiteboul, who had been with them since the French team had returned to ownership. Since then, they've been under the watchful eye of one Marcin Budkowski, officially their executive director. Now he's gone. He had joined them back in 2017 after having a stint with the FIA, and before that, McLaren and then Ferrari. This goes back to the rumor that we just mentioned about Zafnauer coming on board before the season begins. He may be denying it, or may have been denying it back in Brazil, but I'm sorry, it does seem to be lining up for it.
Give it 2 weeks and it'll be announced.
I think you're probably right.
2 weeks.
In the days following the 2021 season finale in Formula One, very controversial finish, and I mean massively controversial. And it does involve a Canadian driver, Nicholas Latifi of Williams. Williams says he's been suffering some online abuse. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll detail that situation and what he's kind of been doing in the aftermath. Plus, Formula One realizes we probably need to go back and do a review. They do a review of the previous season automatically, but in this particular review, they're going to take a long look at what happened in that season finale. And then there's a Formula One film in the works starring Brad Pitt. I'm just not sure about this.
I think it's about time to get the old soapbox out and debut it here on 95.1.
Oh, wait.
It's coming.
You think that the Brad Pitt's going to get the soapbox started. Wait until I give you the details and the plot of the movie. The soapbox will get shinier and taller. For one, Matt Nicholson. Yep. Stick around. Oh, we got a long way to go right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Now, if you're a fan of Formula One and you watched the season finale from Abu Dhabi,
yeah,
you noticed that there was a bit of controversy about that whole thing.
A little.
Well, it turns out that a Williams driver who was a lap down had a bit of a hand in that. And because of it, he was subject to some online abuse, up to and including, he said, death threats. See, it was Latifi who brought out the safety car period late in the race, which brought about the decisions from race stewards that ended up giving Verstappen the win and the title. So Latifi stayed off social media for days after the race was over. As of Wednesday, the week after the season finale, he released a statement that read, in part, quote, "I've received thousands of messages to my social media accounts, most of which have been supportive. But there's been a lot of hate and abuse, too. As we've seen time and again across all sports, all different sports, it only takes one incident at the wrong time to have things completely blown out of proportion and bring out the worst in people who are so-called fans of the sport.
Thank you.
What shocked me was the extreme tone of hate, abuse, and even the death threats that I received." Now, again, he brought out the safety period. What happened in the aftermath as they're doing cleanup and everything like that is that Lewis Hamilton was in front. He was in first place. Max Verstappen was listed in second place, but there were some lapped cars, 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, I think it was 4.
4.
Yeah, I think
at
it's
least
4.
4, maybe 5. In between Lewis Hamilton in first and Max Verstappen in second. Initially, Formula One officials, race stewards, had decided that they were going to restart the race and leave those lapped cars right in between Hamilton and Verstappen. And had they done that, despite the fact that Max Verstappen was on brand new soft compound tires, meaning the most traction, even though it was going to wear faster, he only had a couple of laps left, so what has he got to lose?
It's race over.
Probably race over, despite the fact that Lewis Hamilton is on much older medium compound tires, which are, for all intents and purposes, worn out.
Yeah.
Because he would have had to have gotten past all the lap traffic first before he could even try to tackle Lewis Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
But as things cleared up quickly, race officials suddenly had a change of heart and said very, very quickly with, I don't know, half a lap before they were going to go green?
I think it was a half a lap.
They ordered the lap car suddenly to go around Hamilton, go around the safety car, and go back to around the tail end of the line. What does that do? It puts Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton nose to tail. Again, new tires, soft compound, most grip. Old tires, medium compound. Again, old. Have lost the vast majority of their ultimate grip. Bye-bye, Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen claims his first F1 title. That's the story in case you missed it. Well, Formula One officials, in the wake of that and Nicholas Latifi's post on social media, have announced they are in the process of reviewing the 2021 season, up to and including a very in-depth analysis of the decisions they made at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to see what, if anything, they might be able to do better. Like, you made up your mind the first time, keep it. Series officials and the FIA officials also state that they're in the process of talking to all the teams about the decision. Oh, they'll get an earful from Mercedes. And about the entire season, but that race in particular, to see if any changes are necessary in the decision-making process. There has to be a cutoff. And to me, if you've got a multiple lap and think safety, they call it safety car in Formula One, think of it as full course yellow. Okay? Pace car is out on the track and everything.
Right.
If you haven't told the lap down cars to pass the leaders and pass the pace car and go to the tail end of the field by the time you go one lap to go, I don't think you do it.
That's what I was about to say. If you do it after you get the one to go,
no.
Why do you do it?
No, I don't think you do it.
There's no need in doing it.
I don't think you do it at that point in time.
None at all.
But that's my input. They should be, but they're not listening to us, I don't think.
But I mean, from the aspect of Latifi receiving death threats, that's inexcusable.
Why?
That's completely inexcusable. And I can, without even reading all of them, I can sit and tell you where 98% of them came from.
I'm sure. Mercedes fans.
Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton fans.
Yeah. You know, and I'm a fan of Lewis Hamilton. I want to see him go and get that 8th championship and rewrite the record books. I think it's a really, really cool story. But at the same point in time, I'm not going to go give Nicholas Latifi death threats over something that I know he didn't want to do. It's not like he went into the race and said, hey, you know what? With a couple of laps left, I'm going to get into a wreck and I'm going to really screw things up.
Yeah.
That's not his intent. He didn't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's completely inexcusable simply because everybody puts Lewis Hamilton on this pedestal.
Yeah.
Let's just use the term, the woke people on social media.
Yeah.
They put him on this pedestal the same way, unfortunately, that they put Bubba Wallace. It's very close. I hate to say it, but it's very close.
These people are human.
Let the two guys drive the car and leave them alone.
Yeah, exactly. I agree wholeheartedly. Then there's Honda. Honda has ended their most recent stint in Formula One as an engine provider right after the 2021 season ended, although they do maintain, should Red Bull have any questions, they can call Honda Performance at any time, because Red Bull basically took all the equipment that Honda was using to build the engines and moved it all in-house anyway. So it's still technically a Honda engine. It just won't have Honda stamped on the engine block anymore. So Honda's motorsport boss, he's a guy by the name of Masashi Yamamoto, he thinks and hopes that Honda probably will yet take another crack at this series. He stopped short of putting a timetable on it, but added he sincerely hopes for this. Seriously? If they do, this would be try number 6 for Honda in Formula One. Honda, make up your mind.
We're going, we're leaving. We're going, we're leaving. I
don't know why they left this time. I really don't.
You just won a world championship.
I have no idea why you guys left in the first place.
You're the best in the world.
Should have stayed right where you were.
You've
been fine.
Thank you.
All right, you got your soapbox dusted off? Polish it up just a second.
Yeah, it's been in the closet over the holidays, so it's back out.
Polish it up a little bit and be ready to go. Got a new movie about Formula One coming out. It's a drama film. Take that word loosely. Apple Plus is in exclusive negotiations to back the film that is set to star Brad Pitt, he of Ocean's 11 and Moneyball fame. And he's going to have Top Gun and Days of Thunder producer Jerry Bruckheimer on board as producer. The director will be Joseph Kosinski of Top Gun Maverick. The plot has driver Brad Pitt being an ex-F1 driver, but coaxed out of retirement to come back to Formula One to be a mentor to a young, headstrong driver. Lewis Hamilton is set to be an advisor on this film. Plus, there's potentially more involvement from Formula One here. But that being said, if you're a racing fan and you have watched racing films,
Or even a driver that's watched films.
this might sound somewhat familiar to a film back in 2001, which was heavily panned. You might remember it starred Sylvester Stallone. It was called Driven. Insiders say this should be a much more realistic film than that, whatever that means. I don't have Apple Plus. I don't know. But I'm not.
I do.
I'm not confident.
I will give it the benefit of the doubt and check it out when it does hit.
Okay.
Now, you for whichever production company that's using Jerry Bruckheimer.
Well, it's
and
probably
Joseph
Jerry Bruckheimer's production company.
Probably
period.
so. But Bruckheimer and Kaczynski, you get an A on that one.
Yeah. I mean, great production team. I haven't seen a whole lot of Kaczynski's stuff yet. I do want to see Top Gun Maverick, but I haven't seen a whole lot of his other stuff.
Yeah.
The plot with Brad Pitt?
You could have done better than Brad Pitt.
I think you could have.
You could have done a lot better than Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Play video games when you were a kid, right?
Just a time or two.
John, played video games when you were a kid, right?
I attempted.
Did you
I'll say
ever
that.
did you ever get the talk from mom and or dad that said, "Why are you wasting your time on video games that'll never lead to anything?"
No, maybe that's why I'm on this side of the mic instead of that side of the table.
Now, my dad was a techie guy. My dad loved gadgets. And in 1978, I didn't even know really that it existed, but it arrived under our Christmas tree, and it was, at that time, the state-of-the-art, remember, 1978, Atari
78.
2600.
Atari, yep.
Yeah. Played that thing for years. But at least once, from both my mom and my dad at different occasions, I got the, why are you spending so much time doing that? It's never going to lead to anything. Well,
Yeah, about that.
yeah. Now, granted, Atari 2600 was an old 8-bit system.
Oh, you're talking video games.
I am.
Oh.
Atari 2600 was an old 8-bit video game system. Nowadays, 8-bit is so far in the rearview mirror, you can't see it.
Yeah.
That line is a dot to you.
Yeah.
For example, my colleague over here does iRacing.
Yep.
Very realistic.
Extremely.
Yeah. Let's talk about video games not leading you to anywhere anymore. Let's talk about one native of Turkey, a 23-year-old kid by the name of Cem Bolakbasi.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? 23 years old again. He is signed now to drive for a Czechoslovakian-based team, Shauruz Racing, for the 2022 Formula 2 season. What's Cem's background? He's been racing in Formula One's esports series from 2017 through 2019. In 2020, he ran the Formula Renault esports series, and in 2021, got a chance to drive a car in the GT4 European series and finished second in the points. All of that began from Formula One esports in 2017. Tell me again about video games not going anywhere?
So Formula One esports is a driving video game.
And a massive competition.
Formula One esports is very similar to iRacing.
Massive
Very.
competition, and it has
So he went from
obviously gained.
playing a game to driving a car
in Formula 2, the main feeder series
in
for Formula
F2.
1. Yeah.
There is another name as well, John, that has an extremely, massively, heavily invested background in iRacing that drives a pretty prominent cup car right now. You
Matt
ever heard-
Nicholson?
I wish.
Not yet.
I wish.
He's working on it.
Does the name William Byron ring a bell?
Yeah.
It
Playoff
sets off a
contender.
few ring-a-dings, yeah.
Playoff contender, Hendrick Motorsports. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where he got started.
So tell me again, Mom and Dad, about the time spent playing video games not getting anywhere.
Well,
So you're saying
it
there's
still
a chance.
holds true for me because my car would be in the wall more than it would be on the track.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, so you're saying there's a chance there.
Not for me.
Real quick note before we end hour number one, we'll wrap up open wheel racing talking about the all-electric base series Formula E, which started off 7 years ago as just a curiosity, really, more than anything else. But it's actually come around, and they're in Gen 3 of their particular electric racers. But the thing about it is, they debut on the track for this coming year. They've really only been seen in test sessions. Series officials, however, aren't resting on those laurels. They're already looking ahead to what the fourth generation of the electric racer might be. Series co-founder Alejandro Agag said, quote, "We're just starting now to think about Gen 4, which is coming in 5 years. We have to start the discussion now. We will, of course, invite the OEMs, or the original equipment manufacturers, and the manufacturers that are with us now, but we'll also expand the group to invite all the manufacturers that we can find to brainstorm with a very open mind about how Gen 4 should look and how it should race. There, everything is open. Anything could happen. Continuing as an all-electric series may or not be the way," he added. He said that hydrogen cells are on the table here. Agag said about that, quote, "Hydrogen is within the license of Formula E within the FIA. There are two ways to use hydrogen. One is to burn the hydrogen, which is very inefficient, but some people are working on maybe making it more so. The other way, which is the one that we would use, is probably take a hydrogen fuel cell that basically produces electricity that would then power an electric motor. So as soon as those technologies start being widely available and operating on a racing level, we'll definitely look into those. Formula E evolving.
Interesting.
But that being said, Formula E is going through growing pains.
A little.
Again, they're not even a decade old.
Nope.
And they've seen several big-name car makers come into the series and leave. Most notably, Audi, which was there from the very beginning. They're gone now. BMW, which came in, I want to say in season 4, they've already left. Mercedes, which came in just a couple of years ago, has announced this looks to be their final year with Formula E. But that being said, we got one name coming in. Italian sports car maker Maserati, who has not raced in single-seat open-wheel racing in 60 years, is coming back. They will be the first Italian brand set to compete in Formula E when they officially join. They say it will be season 9. In other words, the 2022-2023 season next year. They'll join Jaguar, Porsche, but they'll miss BMW, Audi, and more than likely Mercedes, unless Mercedes changes their mind.
It'll be interesting to see how a Maserati battery runs.
It's Italian.
Yeah.
Fiat.
Yeah. Yep.
What does Fiat stand for?
Fix it again tomorrow.
I've heard two others. Fix it again, Tony. It's very Italian. Or fix it again twice. All of these are under the purview of Fiat. Maserati is a sub-brand of Fiat. But then again, so's Ferrari, and they've done pretty well. So we'll wait. We'll see.
You know, I actually thought about getting a Fiat.
When?
Before I got this little hybrid I got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you said, no?
Why do I want to fix it again?
No, you don't.
Terrible.
But hey, if you got a Fiat, I hope you're doing well with it. When we come back, hour 1's in the books. Hour number 2 comes up. We've got a whole lot of stock car stuff to talk about. Woo, the Cup Series is loaded down. The Xfinity Series is loaded down.
And a really, really big soapbox moment coming up.
Oh, yeah. Stay close. We still got a long way to go. We're only halfway through. Right here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. My name is Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson with producer John Myers. We are in hour number 2 of CRN. If you missed hour number 1, you missed a lot.
Yeah, you did.
We'll have to get up earlier next Saturday.
That's right, because we're on the air from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. each Saturday morning right here, and we're in our brand new digs. If you'd like to see the brand new digs, or if you want to happen to just re-listen to the show, there will be a chance a little bit later on. We have our very own YouTube channel, youtube.com. Look up Championship Racing Network. Subscribe to it. It's free. You'll get a notification anytime some new video is posted there. And we're going to have the video of this particular show and maybe more posted up. We're hoping later today.
By Monday morning.
By Monday morning, no
At
doubt.
the latest.
Yep.
Yeah. So make sure that you are heavily involved in that. And like I said, you get to see our brand new digs, our brand new home for 2022 and hopefully beyond. And, kind of check us out.
The
We're not
new
exactly,
flagship.
I'm not going to necessarily say we're camera ready, but, hey, It's 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. What do you want?
You could also head over to that site that I like to not go to ever called Facebook.
I was about to say, you're talking some social media place, aren't you?
Yes, I am. We also have a Facebook page if you
we do.
look us up there as well.
Facebook.com/Championship Racing Network. There are other social media entities as well.
Yeah, we got Twitter as well.
So, and by the way, nice little website as well.
Absolutely.
CRNradio.us.
Very important that you put the .us on there, because if you put .com or .net, that's an entirely different company.
That's not us.
Yeah, .us. Make sure you put that on there. All right, that brings us to, we've already talked Formula One, IndyCar, Formula E. Let's talk a little NASCAR, and we start off with the Cup Series. Again, it's been a month since we've been on the air. There's a lot to get to, and the big news that came out of that time, Joe Gibbs Racing losing a massive sponsor. Just before Christmas, it was announced that 2022 will be the final series for the Mars Company sponsoring Joe Gibbs Racing. They have been the primary sponsor of the number 18 of Kyle Busch. Sports Business Journal first confirmed the news. It brings an end to a partnership that began with Joe Gibbs Racing and Mars back in 2008. That was Busch's first year with that team. The Mars deal with Joe Gibbs Racing featured obviously the M&M's brand for the most part, but also included some races where other noted brands that are owned by the company showed up on the car. Double Mint Gum, Pedigree Pet Food, Snickers, Skittles, among others. And overall, this will actually bring an end to more than 30 years of involvement in the series for the Mars Company. They became first a car sponsor back in 1990, and since 2000, M&M's has been known as NASCAR's official chocolate.
I was going to say, did they start out with the M&M's brand?
Yeah, I think so.
Or was it Snickers?
It was actually Snickers.
Was it Snickers? Okay.
The old number 8 Snickers car driven by Rick Wilson. The old Buick.
I always remembered, it's obviously very visually stuck in my head, 2001 with Ken Schrader.
Ken Schrader.
I do remember that one very, very well.
Which people may hate me for saying this, but I don't care. I'm going to say it out loud.
Sure.
Tell us how you feel, Matt.
Over the throwback years, the Mars brand has arguably put the best throwbacks on the track at Darlington.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Arguably, you have, yeah.
The only one that they, in my opinion, goofed up was when they did the Elliott Sadler throwback when the 18 was in the font of the old Yates 38.
Yeah, it didn't
That one
work out
didn't
that
look
well.
right.
It didn't work. Yeah,
the two
that
best
didn't
ones they
work
put
out
on the
that well.
track was when he ran the Snickers Rick Wilson scheme
Yeah.
and he ran the Ernie Irvin Skittle scheme.
That was a good-looking car right there.
Yes, it was.
Also on the sponsorship front over at 2311 Racing, not 23 by 1. That's an inside joke. A company called Leidos has signed on as a sponsor of 2311 Racing for Bubba Wallace. Leidos is a Fortune 500 tech and engineering company that works within the national defense, intelligence, and health markets. This is actually a reunion between sponsor and driver. Leidos sponsored Wallace back when he was running the Xfinity Series 2016-2017. We don't know exactly how many races they're going to be the primary sponsor of, but the first time they will be on the hood will be at Circuit of the Americas. Now, we talked about this when we had a chance to sit in with Grady here on Thursday and kind of introduced ourselves to you guys. And Grady said he feels like Kurt Busch, the teammate's going to be have a much better year. And I agreed, number one, and I said, number two, that if Bubba doesn't look at Kurt and make him his mentor, it's a massive miscalculation on Bubba's part.
I don't think massive is an accurate word for it. I think it's larger than massive.
Would it turn Bubba into a boob if he didn't?
Earth-shattering?
Yeah, yeah.
This is a prime opportunity. You have an opportunity to learn from a veteran who is a champion, who's won big races in his time, and he has run just about everything you can run. He's run every single make, and he has been with some really, really high-profile teams. He's been with some low-profile teams. He's seen the best. He's seen the worst within NASCAR. This guy knows the ins and outs. This is a guy you need to learn from, Bubba.
And he's still standing.
Yep. You need to learn from him because this goes back to what we were talking about last hour with Formula One. Lawrence Stroll is the kind of owner over at Aston Martin who is not going to put up with mediocrity. The two owners of 2311 Racing are, yes, Denny Hamlin, who's busy in the number 11 car right now, but soon enough he will retire. Whenever that happens, he'll then become part owner of 2311 Racing on a full-time basis. But the other guy who's the owner, in case you hadn't heard, is Michael Jordan. You know, the guy who has 6 National Basketball Association titles and is considered to be arguably the best to ever play the game.
Yeah, that guy.
Talk about uber competitive and a guy who will not put up with mediocrity for long.
That is making changes on a little team that he owns in the NBA called the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah.
Right and left.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not getting it done.
He's extremely competitive.
Oh, yeah. On and off the basketball court, in everything he does, he is highly competitive.
He brings to mind a picture that I saw of NFL Raiders and the slogan, "Just win, baby."
Uh-huh. That's, ladies and gentlemen, that is Michael Jordan. Bubba Wallace, do what you got to do because, and this goes for anybody, it's not just Bubba. If you're not in victory lane on a fairly regular basis, you're not in NASCAR very long at the top level. Period.
Here's my first go out on a limb moment here.
Okay.
If the Toyota backlog that we all know that is prominent gets a little steep, Wallace is not getting it done. Denny Hamlin will retire in his own car with a 23.
I could see that. And for those of you that wonder about 2311 Racing again and how much Michael Jordan's involved in it, Bubba Wallace drives the number 23. That's probably the number that Michael Jordan made most famous in the NBA. But the number that Kurt Busch is going to run is a number that should be familiar if you remember Michael Jordan's short period of time with the Birmingham Barons when he retired from baseball or basketball and played baseball and then came back to the NBA. He had this number for a very short period of time. It's the number 45.
Oh, yeah.
That's the number Kurt Busch is running. This is how involved Michael Jordan is. Michael Jordan is not just a name that's attached to the ownership. Believe me, Michael Jordan is involved.
And then some.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bubba, you got your work cut out for you.
Time. Be very careful watching that clock because it's ticking, and that ticking is getting louder. A few weeks ago, we noted here on the show, Drew Blickensderfer had left Front Row Motorsports, but at the time, he didn't state where he was going. He just said it was because he was going for other opportunities. I'd say he fell upstairs, all due respect to Front Row Motorsports.
Yeah.
Drew Blickensderfer's move for other opportunities became moving to Stewart-Haas Racing to become the crew chief for Eric Almarola. The now former crew chief, Mike Bugaravich, moves into the role of performance director at Stewart-Haas Racing and reports directly to Greg Zipadelli. All of these people have something in common. Well, Bugaravich and Greg Zipadelli do anyway. They're former crew chiefs for Tony Stewart. Stewart-Haas Racing announced the hiring 2 days after 2022 came into existence officially, adding that the other 3 driver and crew chief pairings will remain the same this coming season. So Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers remain together, which they have been since they came to Stewart-Haas Racing for 2014. Mike Shiplett remains with Cole Custer, and Johnny Klausmeyer continues to work with Chase Briscoe. As for Blickensderfer, this whole thing is a 1-year deal, and I'm not saying he signed a 1-year deal with Stewart-Haas Racing. I'm sure they'd love to keep him around for many more years after that. This time around, it's a 1-year deal because Eric Almarola announced only a couple of days after he was announced to be getting Drew Blickensderfer that 2022 will be his last year driving the number 10 car. He will retire after the 2022 season is done, he says, in order to spend more time with his family. Almarola said this, quote, "To be the best in the business, you got to be selfish. And for the last 37 years of my life, it has always revolved around me. I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best father. That to me means more than being a race car driver." So this is his final year. We have made some predictions as to who it might be. We'll get back to that. Eric Almarola debuted in the Truck Series back in 2005. Since then, he's claimed 2 wins in that series. He claimed 3 wins in what we now call the Xfinity Series. Back then, it was nationwide. And he has 3 wins so far in the Cup Series, putting him in a rather elite club. It's a little bit less than 30 drivers, last I checked, who can now claim that they have won at least 1 race in all 3 of NASCAR's top series going into 2022.
Yeah, it's...
I was thinking 26 or 28. I can't remember which. I didn't look it up. Sorry.
Almarola Bush.
Oh, he's going to sit here and figure it out by name. We're going to move on because that'll take him some time. By the way, Smithfield Foods will remain his sponsor at least in 2022. All of this means that the former car that crew chiefed that Drew Blickensdorfer crew chief was Michael McDowell. You know, the guy who won the 2021 Daytona 500. Well, he needs a new crew chief. As of January 5th, he got him. His name is Blake Harris. Blake Harris is a 34-year-old native of Texas. This will be his first full-time crew chief role. He has spent some time at Furniture Row Racing, Joe Gibbs Racing, Evernham Motorsports, all in varying roles. He was most recently at Joe Gibbs Racing working on the number 19 with Martin Truex Jr. and was actually the fill-in crew chief at the Fall Texas race where Truex claimed second place. But that's one race. And this is Front Row Motorsports.
Yeah, but he has some good pedigree.
They're a mid-range team who has been fighting, like the Dickens, I'll admit, to become an upper echelon team. But they haven't quite made it yet. So we'll see whether this works out.
They're not far away.
I would agree with that. They've been working a heck of a lot with Ford Performance, and they seem to be getting a lot of good advice, and they seem to be improving. But I don't think they're upper echelon yet.
I'm going to say that if you go 1 to 5 being upper echelon, I'm going to say Front Row's right at 7. They're right there close.
Just on the outside looking in. I got you.
But, as we were saying the other day when we was up here talking with Grady on the show in the morning, the first 10 to 12 races.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's going to be fairly close.
Oh, sure.
And then outside of 10 to 12 races and beyond, everybody's going to start separating themselves away of contenders and pretenders.
Yeah. That's when the teams that know how to get a handle on these cars will have gotten that handle on the cars, and they'll start pulling away. But for the first 10, 12 races, it's kind of like the beginning of a baseball season, quite frankly, when the pitchers and the hitters are not quite on equal terms.
Right.
And the pitchers sometimes dominate or sometimes the hitters dominate, just depends on the year. And then all of a sudden it kind of evens out later on in the year. In this year, it's all going to be even at the beginning, and then the cream starts to rise to the top.
For sure.
All due respect to those teams who are not the cream. I'll let you figure out which ones those are. Let's get back to Stewart-Haas Racing, who apparently got inspired by Formula One. They've decided upon a reserve driver for 2021. That's their words, not mine. The driver is Cup veteran Ryan Preece. Preece found himself without a ride when JTG Daugherty Racing decided that they were going to go from 2 cars last year to 1 car this year. So Preece will spend a lot of time in a Ford Performance Simulator. He is also slated to run a select number of races all across NASCAR's top 3 series in 2022. He was confirmed initially for at least 2 Cup races, 3 Xfinity and 7 Truck Series races, either with Stewart-Haas Racing or one of its allied teams. That number of Cup races has been upped. Last I heard, it was 7 or 8, I think.
Yep, it is.
As is the case in the Truck Series, it'll be David Gilliland Racing. He might get some time in a second Stewart-Haas Racing Cup car or affiliated teams. We'll get back to those.
That would more than likely either going to be Live Fast or Brick Ware.
Speaking of which, the first race for Ryan Preece will be the upcoming Busch Clash. He will try to make it all the way to the finals in the number 15 car of Rick Ware Racing.
Since you brought that up, I've got it pulled up right here.
Yeah.
They've already released the entry list for the Busch Clash. Busch Light Clash.
Busch Light
Let me
Clash,
rephrase that.
Yeah.
36 charter teams entered.
Yes.
Only 23 start.
So 13 are going to go home of the chartered cars.
A quick read off of just the entry list.
Okay.
Ross Chastain. Austin Cindric. Austin Dillon. Kevin Harvick. Kyle Larson.
This is by number.
This is numerical order, yeah. Brad Keselowski. Corey LaJoie. Tyler Reddick. Chase Elliott. Eric Almarola. Denny Hamlin. Ryan Blaney. Chase Briscoe. Ryan Preece in the 15, as we just said.
Right.
AJ Allmendinger starting off in the 16. Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Christopher Bell, Harrison Burton in the 21. Joey Logano.
That's weird.
Yeah. Bubba Wallace. I don't know who goofed up this entry list, but they got it listed as William Byron Jr. But we know it's William Byron.
It's just William Byron.
Justin Haley, Michael McDowell, Todd Gilliland in the 38, Cole Custer, Ty Dillon in the 42, Eric Jones, Kurt Busch, Ricky Stenhouse, Alex Bowman, Cody Ware, Landon Castle is entered in the 77 for Spire. BJ McLeod, Daniel Suarez.
Wow. We'll see. Got to get down to 23 because they're trying to put 36 cars. They're going to do heat races, and you've built a track on the inside of the LA Coliseum. Very short.
I will say there will be 2 major names that will not make the show.
Oh, at least 2.
At least 2 will not make the show.
Cowlick Racing, as we talked about, AJ Allmendinger going to be running multiple cars full-time in both Xfinity and Cup in 2022. They've announced their crew chiefs. Justin Haley driving the number 31 Cup Series car. He will have veteran crew chief Trent Owens, who called the shots for Ryan Preece over at JTG Dougherty Racing the past couple of years. The other car is a star car, that number 16 that you mentioned, piloted by a combo of AJ Allmendinger, Daniel Hemrick, and Noah Gragson. Daniel Hemrick is running for Cowlick Racing full-time in the Xfinity Series, and they're going to borrow Noah Gragson from Junior Motorsports. They will have Matt Swiderski as their crew chief. This will be his first full season as a crew chief, but he did lead Allmendinger to a win on the Indy Road Course last August in a part-time role as crew chief for him back in 2021, so he knows how to work it. When we come back, you mentioned Spire Motorsports. They are going on into 2022 with 2 cars. We'll talk about the details on those. And we've got a whole lot of Gen 7 stuff to talk about because that's the car that will be racing on the track in the LA Coliseum in the Busch Light Clash. Good grief. Can't tell the players without a scorecard. That's why you got us right here at CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Spire Motorsports is one of those teams that we've been watching for a while and going, wonder if they're fully committed. Last year, it seems like they kind of were.
Yeah.
Truth be told, because they went out.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, we will. We promise. Right now. Spire Motorsports is coming in with 2 full-time rides. The number 7 Camaro, which is the one that kind of made us think these guys are really in it for the long haul because they hired their full-time driver. It's Corey LaJoie, and he performed actually above expectations in 2021.
And what I would define as admirable.
Oh, yeah. The other car is that first car that they had. That's that number 77 Camaro. It's going to be driven by several different drivers, and that's the thing that's still that's where we go. We're not 100% certain that they're fully vested over there at Spire Motorsports.
They're all-star. I don't know if I would call it an all-star car.
Well, you make up your mind on that. One of the drivers, for example, is going to be Josh Bilicki. Actually, the majority of the races now, they're saying, will be Josh Bilicki behind the wheel. Exact numbers not revealed, but for the races, the Bilicki's behind the wheel. The Wisconsin native will have sponsorship from a major dealer in the Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan area. You got 35 dealerships amongst those states covering like 72 different possibilities of brands and used cars. Good night. It's a company called Ziegler Automotive, by the way.
I think I saw 23.
Okay.
23 races again.
They haven't said exactly who all is going to be doing what, so we'll keep you updated on that. Also, there's this. Since 1997, NASCAR has, for lack of a better word, confiscated the car of the Daytona 500 win. And what they do is they put it on display. Now it's at the Motorsports Hall of Fame, which is located on the Daytona grounds. But now we got the Gen 7 era. It's just underway. Teams have all gone to NASCAR with concerns over parts availability. So NASCAR is saying, it's not yet confirmed, but they're saying it is possible that this year's Daytona 500 winning car won't be displayed.
Take a Gen 6 car and wrap it up just like it and put it in there.
Yeah, this is kind of what it looked like.
No, let's don't do that because I can't see a Gen 6 car with the numbers shifted forward.
Oh,
I can't.
See, that's that thing that... that's a bugaboo for us here at CRN. I'm here to tell you.
Every, and I'm going to go European on everything. Out of every livery that we've seen revealed yet, there is one.
That looks okay.
There is one. If you see where I'm going with this, one car that actually positioned that number in just good enough of a spot to where it looks feasible.
Yes.
Ross Chastain's car at Trackhouse, the number 1.
And it was because of where the number 1 was placed and the fact that it leans back. It doesn't necessarily lean forward. It leans back a little bit.
The lean back sets it.
Yeah, and that visual makes it look almost like what we're used to. Mm-hmm. and I saw one version of the 4-car. And the 4-car is kind of interesting because if you look at one side of the car, it's leaned forward. If you look at the other side of the car, it looks like it's leaned backward. When it's leaned backward, it looks pretty good.
Lean forward, you're going, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to that. Move to the front, just behind the front wheel well. I don't know.
Put it back normal. Leave it
Please.
alone.
I know. NASCAR, last we heard, had decided on the package that they're going to run at all tracks except Daytona, Talladega, and potentially Atlanta. They haven't figured this one out yet.
Atlanta has been confirmed.
Has it? Okay. Once it is ultimately determined how fast the cars are going to run on the new pavement and configurations currently being worked up, the horsepower package will feature a lower spoiler set to run at all tracks that are less than a mile long in 2022, and now that same package is set to run at all the intermediate tracks, and in other words, tracks 1.5 miles long and less. NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell said of the technical specs on the car, quote, "We believe the setup featuring 650 horsepower and a 4-inch spoiler will lead to strong, intense competition and put the racing squarely in the hands of the best drivers in the world. That was the goal we set for the industry as we develop the next-gen car. We're confident in the direction we're headed. Very much look forward to the racing in 2022 and beyond."
Atlanta will have the same package as Talladega and Daytona.
Which means taller spoiler,
7-inch,
probably with a lip.
7-inch spoiler, no lip.
No lip, thank you. Good grief, that
510 horsepower.
And these cars punch a pretty big hole. We've seen in testing in Daytona.
A substantial hole.
We've seen it in testing in Daytona, which happened earlier this week. By the way, leading the speed charts. Day one of testing. No, it wasn't Kevin Harvick. No, it wasn't Chase Elliott. No, it wasn't Kyle Larson. No, it wasn't even Dale Earnhardt Jr. We'll get back to that.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the leader in the clubhouse at the end of day one, Timmy Hill. Who? Yeah, Timmy Hill. That's why we say, first couple of races of the year, first few races of the year, got that learning curve, and that learning curve kind of flattens the competition level out.
Timmy! I watched a little bit of I had, while I was eating a bite one day, I can't remember which day it was, I turned on the YouTube live stream that NASCAR had going, and they just had a panorama shot with following the pack around. There would be one car, maybe two cars that would fall back just to see what the cars would suck up. These cars have zero problem sucking up to a pack.
I believe it.
By themselves when they get separated from 8, 10, 12 cars.
Got to be careful. Got to watch it.
Yeah.
As for that first round of preseason testing at Daytona, we talked about it. Kyle Larson wasn't there. His 5-car was. See, Kyle Larson's competing in the Chili Bowl Nationals this week, so he wasn't able to be there. He's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So who was driving the 5-car? Well, at least for one turn, it was one Dale Earnhardt Jr. You might remember him.
Ralph.
Taking a little bit of time behind the wheel, told media he was so eager to get a chance to at least try out the Gen 7 racer. He begged for a chance at a practice session, talking to several Chevrolet teams. He got one with his former boss at Rick Hendrick.
Well, considering 3 out of the 4 Hendrick drivers are in Tulsa running sprint car midgets.
Sure.
Chili
Yeah,
Bowl.
we could use a warm body to go test it. I'm surprised they didn't call us. So what does that mean for Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s situation, maybe his future? Could a possible one-off cup race be in his future, kind of like he's been doing annually in Xfinity Series since retiring as full-time? Don't go holding your breath.
Yeah.
The 2-time Daytona 500 champion said that he wanted to practice session because it would help him know a little bit more when NBC takes over NASCAR coverage later this year, and he would be able to talk about it on camera much better. When asked specifically about running another cup race, say a return to the Daytona 500, he quickly shut that down, said, yep, I'm running one race a year, and it will be for my team, Junior Motorsports, in the Xfinity Series, and that is it.
Yeah.
And
Speaking of
I understand that.
Yeah, speaking of Daytona.
Yeah, let me go to that here.
Yeah.
We heard, and we don't do this often. For those of you that are not familiar necessarily with how we work here, we don't go out on a limb. We'll make predictions sometimes.
Yep.
We don't try to speculate a whole lot.
Yep.
And because we don't try to speculate a whole lot, we're not necessarily going to go with a whole lot of stories that have anonymous sources because, who is the anonymous source? It could be somebody in the writer's mind.
Right.
Okay? I can think of a couple of writers specifically.
Quite a few.
But I'm just going to leave that alone.
Could be the sister of a girlfriend of a former boss of the guy that worked for this other guy that was at the track when he saw that guy race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it could be Casper the Friendly Ghost. We don't know.
Could be, yeah.
But that being said, we have made a few connections within the racing world.
Pretty few tight connections, too.
And this one, we can say, is a reliable inside source, saying that NASCAR has mandated something for the year 2022, and it's not related to COVID either. So if
No,
you were thinking that,
it's not.
No, it's not.
I'm glad you took your hat off for this one, John.
Yeah. The insider, who asked to remain anonymous, has said that all members of every team in Cup, Xfinity, Truck, and ARCA Series bought by NASCAR a few years ago,
All 4 down.
must undergo sensitivity training before they arrive at Daytona for Speed Weeks.
Mm-hmm.
This has not become a major story in national media yet. No one from NASCAR, obviously, therefore, has commented on it. If true, this creates, in my mind, a bad look for the series because it seems to start to claim that all the people in NASCAR, and we're talking drivers, all the crew members they bring, including the owners, are all guilty before they're proven innocent, which is not how this country is supposed to be.
Pretty much.
Matt, the soapbox is yours.
You have to be sensitive.
Yeah.
He's so sensitive.
When this was brought to my attention, all I could do was, before they can
Say
even get their license in hand. Everybody, owner, driver, crew members, crew chief, PR directors, everybody.
So where is all this political correctness coming from?
That's a great question.
It is a great question.
Because they don't even know. They have no clue.
Where did this start? What's the genesis of this?
Exactly.
Because NASCAR's had the Drive for Diversity program for years. Kyle Larson's a champion. I have the most I've heard about Kyle Larson is what he said that got him banned a couple of years ago. I have heard nothing about him being verbally or physically abused because of his mixed race, Asian American. And as far as the drivers, the crew members, the owners themselves, I've heard nothing against Bubba Wallace. I've heard nothing against Haley Deegan, nothing against Tony Breidinger, nothing against literally any of the other drivers that are not male and white. I've heard zero. Now, we can go back to Talladega and we can talk about that whole rope pole / noose situation. And we've all seen the pictures, you know, and I'm no expert, but I've seen nooses in historical pictures, and I saw this. I got to admit, if you are somewhat uneducated in the ways of things, it's got a resemblance to a noose. There's no doubt about it.
And the part about this is the national media that got the video that showed it was there in 20...
Just the year before that, so 2019?
Yes.
Yeah, 2019.
The first weekend that Big Bill's Garage opened up.
Yeah.
The person that supplied the video to them has been on this very show.
Yes. Okay. The other thing is for those of you that are all complaining that Bubba Wallace saw it and freaked out, Bubba Wallace never saw it.
No.
It was a crew member for the number 43 car, which he was driving at the time, that saw it and alerted NASCAR. All of this stuff is going to say that this may be going overboard. Now, should we...
Just a bit.
Should we look at females? Should we look at person of an Asian American or an African American or Native American or whatever happens to be your particular racial makeup?
Arab American?
And look at them as equals? Absolutely. We should. But at the same point in time, why are we mandating racial or any kind of sensitivity training when, truth be told, what I saw that weekend of the quote-unquote noose incident was the entirety of the Cup Series. Every single driver and a heck of a lot of crew members.
Quite a few.
All rallied around in support of Bubba Wallace.
Because at the time, you didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
For sure.
You didn't. This little bit of news boggles my mind.
It baffled me.
Again, NASCAR hasn't commented. They haven't confirmed that this is something that is going on. But we have reason to believe that it is true.
Do you think it's to alleviate any post-race contact?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Whether
That's a
it
good
be
question.
via sheet metal or
I don't know.
fisticuffs?
I don't know, but it is going on because said driver of said team that I have an anonymous source related to has already completed his.
This is a bad visual, NASCAR. It's a horrible visual because you're assuming that everybody is guilty.
Yeah, you could say that.
Throws me for a loop. Think about that for a couple of minutes. Mm-hmm. Then there's something that I want to get on a small soapbox about.
Tip it up.
I love road course racing. I've been a road course racing fan for a very long time, and I'm happy that NASCAR's doing more of it. But when they go out to Sonoma, assuming California lets them, later on this year, NASCAR has decided to abandon that carousel again and run the chute because the Camping World Truck Series is going to be joining that weekend of racing, and officials said that the fans wanted it back. You didn't ask me. Anyway, officials said the fans wanted it back, felt that the short chute, was easier on racers, and because of that, the Cup race will remain a 90-kilometer race, but it eliminates so much mileage, so to speak, on the track that the number of laps to get to 350 kilometers jumps back up from 90 to 110 laps. And this was it was never initially a part of Sonoma. The chute was a short straightaway that was paved for the 1998 race. NASCAR used it each and every year from then until 2018, but to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the track, 2019, 2021, remember they didn't go in 2020, COVID, they used the carousel, which IndyCar and most of the other series use. Xfinity's not included on that weekend. It will be a weekend of 3 series, the ARCA Menards West, Camping World Truck Series, and Cup Series. I don't want to go back to the chute. I love the carousel.
There's one line in that right there that you said that NASCAR stated that makes me want to beat my head through that wall. Felt the chute was easier on the racers. Last I checked, a race is not supposed to be easy.
No. This is an endurance.
Supposed to be.
There's a reason it's 350 miles. If we wanted it to be easy, it'd be 100 miles long. But this is a test of the ability of the drivers and the machines to be able to make it, in this case, 350 kilometers. Or in the case of the Daytona 500, 500 miles.
If I wanted it to be easy, it'd be 20 laps.
If you want it to be easy, change the car tomorrow to a freaking Tesla.
Sure.
And auto drive it.
Don't say nothing about auto driving because Indy's already working on that.
Yeah, unfortunately they are.
Yeah.
Another prestigious race happening outside of the primary motorsports season where we've talked about it, we've mentioned it a couple of times. It's the Chili Bowl. Plenty of NASCAR racers set to compete in this particular week's events out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I think the finals are tonight? Tonight.
Yep.
A number of drivers who are or have run in at least one of NASCAR's top 3 series. Rico Abreu, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson have all won races dating back to 2015. They're back at the Chili Bowl. Other NASCAR drivers or drivers with NASCAR ties include Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Casey Kane, J.J. Yaley. A couple of IndyCar drivers as well, Connor Daly and Santino Ferrucci. Ferrucci cut his teeth in open wheel, raced NASCAR mostly in 2021. They're all there. I don't know. They're doing heat races today leading into the final start, right?
Preliminaries and heat races were done yesterday. They
Okay.
start what's called the alphabet soup in probably about an hour.
There you go. We'll have news from that coming up next week. I've collected them. Matt's collected them.
A few of them.
John's got a couple. We're talking those Diecast collectibles. They've been popular each and every year for many, many years. Lionel Racing released their list of the top 10 most popular diecasts sold in 2021. We'll detail them when we come back. You're listening to CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Upcoming here, as you heard the promo on the break there, coming up in March, the Bama Bash is being revived at Talladega Short Track on March 18th and 19th, I think is what it is. And make sure you be able to get ready to go see that. Comp Cam Super Dirt Car Series is sanctioning it this year.
Quick question. You going to be in it?
Possibly.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Possibly.
Could be.
Not the super portion of it. I wish, but
Yeah.
not the super portion of it.
Yep. For those of you that are kind of new to us, we've got an interesting little trio here. I'm the radio vet. I've got about 30-plus years of experience under my belt. John has about that much time, and he's the creative portion of the show. He does just about all the online stuff when it comes to everything there. And Matt is our resident driver.
Yep.
So, he's got
He's
got quite a bit of experience out of Talladega Short
a
Track.
little bit. Touching super quick, we was talking about the Chili Bowl before we went to break there. They don't start in an hour. They started actually 45 minutes ago.
But you got the alphabet soup of
The
heat
alphabet
races to go
soup,
first.
yeah. Starting with the Q main.
That tells you how many cars I entered. Q main.
Q main.
Yeah. If you know anything about short track racing like that,
If you
Q, you got to go all the way up to
If you can run the alphabet, you got to go from Q all the way to A. Q started at 9:15 a.m. The A main does not start until 10:30 p.m. tonight.
assuming that it all works out well.
Yeah.
If they have a massive wreck and they take time to clear the track, it gets delayed.
Now, if you're an idiot like me and you don't really follow the short track a lot, where is this race?
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Thank you.
Indoors.
And at 5:45, the pole shuffle that they will do is the hashtag Do It For Grady pole shuffle. I'm reading the entry, the breakdown right here.
Did you see who was in the Q main?
No, they don't have a Q main lineup going.
Okay. I was kind of wondering if there was
at-
any major names in there that had to fight all the way from Q to A. Yikes. Good
Oh,
luck.
here it is. I'll just briefly look over it. Go ahead.
Okay. We mentioned before the break Lionel Racing, which is now the big name in NASCAR Diecast collectibles. They released their list of the top 10 most popular sold diecast models of 2021. Now, remember, the most popular driver of 2021, as voted upon by the fans, is Chase Elliott. And what we have noticed over the past several years is that the most popular driver tends to have the most sold diecast in some way, shape, or form. Not the case in 2021. 2021's most sold diecast actually goes to Kevin Harvick in the number 4 Ford Mustang. It was the time that he ran at Nashville Superspeedway with a Gravedigger monster truck paint scheme going on. That was the most popular diecast of 2021.
I can see that.
2021 champion Kyle Larson's champion edition car, the HendrickCars.com number 5, was the second bestseller. And then third place, Chase Elliott's number 9 Napa look, his classic look. The Larson's car that clinched the title for him, the look that was run at Phoenix, came in 4th. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s Xfinity ride from Richmond Raceway, the number 8 United for America look, in 5th overall in yearly sales. Also in the top 10, Chase Elliott's Hooters Night Owl look. I love that look. That was a sharp car.
Yeah.
Elliott's Lumar Circuit of the Americas race win was 7th best. 8th bestseller, Kyle Larson's HendrickCars.com Las Vegas win. Chase Elliott's Hooters Darlington Throwback was 9th. They nailed that look.
They did.
And rounding out the top 10, Bubba Wallace's number 23 Toyota race win with McDonald's from his time at Talladega Superspeedway, coming in at number 10.
A couple of, I found that, a couple of recognizable names that are in the lower features of the Chili Bowl.
Okay.
In the Q feature, some guy by the name of Cruz Pedregon.
Whew.
He's in the Q.
You know, he's used to straight line racing, so I kind of get it.
Santino Ferrucci is in the Q.
Really? I wouldn't have expected that, I don't think.
In the O feature, does the name Todd Cleaver ring a bell?
A little bit.
He's in the O. And one that I did not see being this far back, Sammy Swindell is in the N.
Wow. Got a long way to fight. Long day of racing over there. Xfinity Series news here. JD Motorsports has announced they have signed driver Bailey Curry. He's going to return to drive for them this coming season. Curry's now 25. 116 starts in NASCAR's Top 3 Series, posting his best finish at Phoenix last March in Xfinity in the Call Before You Dig 200. Curry's going to drive for JD Motorsports with Gary Keller for the entirety of the 2022 season, they say, with sponsors to be announced soon. Jeremy Clements Racing has returning the sponsor Fly Informed Structures for 2022. It's a deal where they're going to be the primary sponsor for 3 races, Atlanta, Pocono, and Homestead, Miami, and then be a secondary sponsor for the remainder of that year. Jeremy Clements Racing is a sneaky good operation.
Quietly good.
And if you could get them a big-time sponsor that would do, I would say, maybe 20 of the 33 races out of the year.
He's fully funded this year.
I get it, he's fully funded, but if you could have just one, you'd have that one sponsor instead of spending a lot of time kind of changing around paint schemes.
Yeah, that
If you could do 20 to 24 out of the 33, I think it would give them just a little bit more time, and they might just zero in just a little bit more.
If I'm not mistaken, the business First Pacific Funding has got 24 out of the 33, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. It'll be interesting to watch and see.
Yeah,
It
for sure.
really will. We got a new team beginning in the Xfinity Series this year, if all works out, for former series driver J.C. Stout. If that name doesn't ring a bell, don't worry. It probably doesn't for most.
No.
Stout has started something called SQR Development, and they're already working in deals to run Toyotas from Joe Gibbs Racing. They plan to enter some 10 to 12 races this year. They first plan to qualify for the April 2nd race at Richmond. Should be a busy year for Stout, especially if he plans to drive or be one of his drivers. As he said, his intention is to run also for the governorship of the state of New York this year as well. Stout, if you're running with an R beside your name, I got news for you. You ain't going to get in.
Yeah.
But that's another story entirely, and this is not a political show.
Yeah.
Junior Motorsports has hired a Cup Series veteran crew chief to helm the war wagon of the number 9 Xfinity Series car. That's the one driven by Noah Gragson. They've got Luke Lambert. Luke Lambert has spent the past 9 seasons calling shots for different drivers in the Cup Series, most recently Chris Buescher at what we are now calling the newly christened Roush Fenway Keselowski, or RFK Racing. He comes down to call the shots for Gragson at Junior Motorsports. Good move or what?
Oh, this very good move.
All right.
Very, very good move. This may be the lethal combination of the year for the Xfinity Series.
Noah Gragson was somewhat in because he kept battling, he kept fighting, and he would just miss out on getting several wins over the course of the 2021 Xfinity Series season. Luke Lambert might be the guy who can nail down those wins instead of just missing out on them.
Yep.
On the other hand, over at the number 1 Junior Motorsports operation, Flying J Pilot Truck Stops, they've sponsored Junior Motorsports in that car since 2008, informed the organization they are not continuing in that role in 2022 because most of that time they were sponsoring driver Michael Annett, who retired at the end of the 2021 season. The number 1 car will be filled by a driver who is very familiar if you are a fan of Brett Holmes Racing, when they were doing both ARCA and Camping World Truck Series last year in a combination. Sometimes it was Brett Holmes behind the wheel. Other times it was Sam Mayer. Well, Sam Mayer is now full-time in that number 1 car this coming year.
Yep.
Back to Lambert. Lambert told jski.com that he'd actually had several opportunities to continue as a crew chief in the Cup Series, but when he saw that Dave Ellens had left the number 9, this was news from late last year, just after the NASCAR season ended. Dave Ellens left the number 9, and Junior Motorsports moved up to call the shots at Petty GMS Racing at the number 43. He said, the possibilities at the Xfinity Series level with Gragson were just too good to pass up and jumped at it. Gragson did make the championship 4 last year, his first time going that far, but he was 3rd in the final standings. He did win 3 of the final 10 races of the year, but it was earlier on in the year where he was inconsistent and missing out on races, which might just be where Lambert shines here.
Yep.
I could see
Absolutely.
Crew chief driver pairings over at Calic Racing. We talked about the Cup Series earlier on in the hour. Xfinity Series program begins with Jason Trinchier and Landon Castle in the number 10. That's a wild signing. In the number 11, Justin Haley's former crew chief, Alex Yantz, will be calling the shots for Daniel Hemrick. And then there's the number 16 for A.J. Allmendinger, continuing full-time in the Xfinity Series. He's got Bruce Schlicker, who was overseeing the 10-car last year with Ross Chastain and Jeb Burton combined. He now gets all year with A.J. Allmendinger.
I'm saying it now. As deadly, let's say that, as Calic Racing has became on super speedways in Xfinity, they essentially have super speedways on lockdown.
I agree.
In no particular order, they will sweep the super speedway races.
Our final bit of news here is going to take a little bit of time to dig through, because there's Brandon Brown, who was the center of some controversy when he won the fall race at Talladega last year, if you might remember.
Yeah.
In the post-race interview on television, fans were chanting something that we can't say on television when the NBC reporter said that they were chanting, "Let's go Brandon." Well, that's turned into, let's face it, a less than veiled put down of President Joe Biden. So NASCAR and Brown have kind of initially, at least, tried to distance themselves from it, but now Brown is kind of embracing it. He signed a deal to have a new crypto coin become the primary sponsor of his Brandon-built motorsports ride called LGB Coin, which obviously stands for Let's Go Brandon Coin. They would become the primary, but as of January 2nd, NASCAR stated that they had not given final approval to the proposed paint scheme. NASCAR, according to Brown, had approved the sponsor, but NASCAR, again, has final say over how the car looks. Apparently, they decided January the 5th that they weren't going to accept it. They rejected the sponsor and the proposed paint scheme for the number 86 Camaro, with NASCAR telling Racer.com it was because the proposal had not been sent through the proper channels and was initially approved without the proper understanding of the sponsor itself, as the sponsor's submission was not clearly laid out.
I call that BS.
I call that trying to figure out a way to cover your butt.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
James Koutoulis of LGBcoin.com said that there is a lawsuit potential, but he hasn't filed it. Instead, on January the 8th, they found a workaround. The two sides announced they had come to terms on a different form of sponsorship, a personal services agreement where Brown appears publicly in videos and at some racing-related events, more for the crypto coin company than for NASCAR, but does not include any branding on his race car or his driver suit. I get that NASCAR has final say and approval over paint schemes. I mean, obviously, you don't want to have something that is blatantly, and I use that word very, very prominently, blatantly offensive. Let's Go Brandon is not blatantly offensive unless you're just a pure, hardcore Democrat progressive. Last I checked, NASCAR's base membership and fandom is not really that way.
No.
And this is as political as I plan to get. If you're a major fan of President Joe Biden, congratulations, but I don't know why. I've seen nothing that really leads me into believing that he's deserving of it yet. Maybe he'll change. I doubt it, but maybe he will. In this case, this is taking an opportunity, and how many times have we seen this in the world, not just in NASCAR, but in everything? You find an opening, you find an opportunity, and you take advantage of it.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen the paint scheme. The paint scheme looks good. It's just got LGB coin on it. It's not like it's going over there and saying, let's go Brandon, and right underneath it, what the fans were actually chanting. Going through the proper channels. Whatever.
I don't know.
This is two things, NASCAR,
It's a mess.
that are highly questionable, and we haven't even gotten the racing started. Just saying. All right. There's a lot of stuff left on the table. And for that, we are going to go to our YouTube channel. So we invite you to keep an eye on it and go to it. If you haven't been there, go to it, youtube.com, and then search Championship Racing Network. And later on, you'll be able to rewatch this entire show, any part of it or all of it. And you'll have a secondary show as well, where we're going to kind of pick up where we left off, because we've still got NHRA, Camping World Truck Series, some other racing news, and the SRX Series to talk about. So we got plenty to get to. Join us on our YouTube, won't you? Again, YouTube, search for Championship Racing Network. Subscribe. It's free. It'll tell you when these videos get posted a little bit later on this weekend. Thank you so much for checking us out. We'll be back again next weekend right here on our brand new home for the Championship Racing Network in 2022. Thank you for joining us. Again, join us again next week right here on the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.